Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this week's edition of Ask Coach Marie. I'm Marie O'Neill, founder of Padma Life Coaching, and your host on this series. This is the place where you ask a question, and I give you my unique opinion as a life renewal coach, astrologer, and past life regression facilitator. Each week on Friday, a new video is released with me answering 2 questions from the viewers. I also talk about various other life renewal topics. Please know that I am not a therapist and I will never tell you what you must do. So let's go ahead and get going with the questions for this week. Now, our first question comes from Walter, who is in Palm Desert. Walter says, I'm in my early 50s and thinking about going back to school to finish my master's degree in art history. My friends think I'm nuts. They say I'm too old. What are your thoughts about this? Well, Walter, I actually don't believe that you're too old to do most things. If this is a desire or wish that you have, some part of you that you need to fulfill, I'd say go for it. Why not? I remember having one of the doctors that I had years ago went back to medical school after age 40. She had always wanted to be a doctor, but she didn't want to do it while her kids were young. Can you imagine what it must have been like for her to start medical school or, you know, at age 40? I mean, by the time I met her, she was well into her 50s and was an excellent doctor. The thing is, make sure that whatever it is you want to do, that this is a passion for you, that this is something that you feel called to do. And only you know. I mean, your friends don't know, psychologists don't know, no one knows but you. So you have to search your own mind and your own heart to determine whether or not this is a worthy goal for you. Whether, I mean, it could easily be a soul calling. I mean, we never know on the conscious level what it is our soul wishes us to do until the soul relays that information. Art history is beautiful. Well, I love art and I love history. So anyway, that is all I really have to say about that. I wish you well on this journey and let me know how everything turns out. Our topic for today, it's a continuation of a topic from a few weeks ago. It's on sign and symbol, the directions. When I talked about sign and symbol before, I talked about animals and our animal totems. This time, I'm going to talk a bit about the directions. There's a lot of information out here on the directions, and I just want to give you some basics to hopefully help you. The reason directions are important is because our higher mind, the universe, the angels, we're all given information through nature. And one part of, or how to read the messages, or one aspect of how to read the messages, is looking at the direction that where you got the symbol or the sign. For example, if you are, say, on the road and you see an animal cross in front of you, what direction was it coming from? What direction was it going? That's important because that's a part of how you're going to, or information that you're going to need to be able to decipher the message. There are basically 10 directions, but for when you're looking at sign and symbol, you're really looking at 6 directions. And that is, of course, the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. And then there is up and down, and there's internal. There's also southwest, northwest, and, um, So there's those intermediary directions that are in between, not intermediary, I said that wrong. The directions that are in between the cardinal directions. That all of this is important. So what I'm going to do today is just give you a brief overview of the cardinal directions so that hopefully it will help you to interpret messages that you receive through nature, because nature is constantly talking to us. So when you have um, a message, or you see an animal, or the wind is blowing, or coming from the east, you know that that is a new beginning, because the east is where the sun rises. So whatever the message, if whatever message is coming from the east is telling you that there's a new start, a new beginning, and that is something to pay attention to. For example, if you see a bird flying to the east, and you are thinking about, say, going to art school, just like our previous question, then you know that that's telling you this is a positive, this is a new direction, this is a new beginning. So that's the east. The opposite of the east is, of course, the west. So if you had the bird flying to the west, that's the place of introspection. And it's telling you that you need to do soul searching, you need to look within, you need to get quiet, because that's where that's an inward lodge. That is an area where you actually go to meditate and to contemplate actions. And so that's the west. There is the north. The north is the place of our ancestors and the place of spirit. So if you have um, a bird, just using a bird as an example, flying towards the north, then you know that the message is coming from your ancestors, from beings on the other side, from spirit. If you have, say, the bird flying to the south, that's the place of innocence, and it's telling you to be humble, to have humility. It's the place of the children's lodge. And so, anyway, those are the major directions, the four major directions. There are others, but I'm not going to talk about those here today. I hope that that helps you on your journey to understanding messages that are sent to you by the divine and from nature. So, our next question is coming from Megan, who is in Portland, Maine. Megan says, I've been given an opportunity to participate in a sweat lodge, but I'm not sure what to expect. If I should go for it or not have any expectations. Have you any information on this, or have you ever done this before? What do you think? That's a very good question, Megan. And I have never done a sweat lodge. Not that I haven't had the desire to do one, I've just not done it. When you're going to do a sweat lodge, you have to be really clear on several things. One, why do you want to do it? Are you doing it just to have the experience? Are you doing it because you feel called to do it? Are you doing it because you're on a spiritual quest and this is a part of your spiritual quest? You also have to be very careful with who runs the sweat lodge, who runs the sweat. The reason is there have been instances where people have gotten really sick in sweats, doing sweats, and there also have been instances where people have died because you're talking about tremendous heat that you're um, having to deal with. There are different rounds that you do in a sweat lodge, in a sweat, meaning you have you're not in there all the time. You go in, you you go through the sweat, you see visions and have your experiences. And then the sweat leader has to be able to watch you and know whether or not you are getting overheated, whether or not you need to come out or not. So the sweat person needs to be really experienced. The other thing, and this is my view, of course, everything that I tell you is my view. I prefer, if you're going to do a sweat, to go to a Native American or at least maybe someone who is in Peru, who is native, who really is steeped in the tradition. I'm pretty traditional when it comes to doing sweat lodges and other forms of healing. The reason that I say go to someone who is native is because you want someone who has been doing this for more than just a few years. You want someone who has been trained where it's been handed down from medicine person to medicine person or sweat leader to sweat leader. And the person is steeped in the knowledge of how to do a sweat lodge because there's ceremony that's involved. There's a lot that is involved in doing a sweat. And too many people want to do sweats just because they're curious about them. Don't do it because you're curious. Do it because it's something that you feel a calling to do, and make sure that you get the help of someone who is really, really steeped in this knowledge. Um, so that's what I have to say about that. That may be a little more than you want to hear concerning sweats, but your life is important to you and to me and to your family members. You want to do your due diligence and make sure that if you're going to do a sweat, that it is um, legitimate and it is well run. So anyway, I hope that helps. All right, we have come to the end of the questions. If you have questions that you would like me to answer, please send them to padmacoach at icloud.com. That's padmacoach at icloud.com. If you would like to learn more about me, you're welcome to peruse my website or send me a private message if you would like to work with me as your coach or astrologer. You can also look at or read my memoir and the Lotus Opened, a memoir. You can find that on any of the online bookstores. So I look forward to seeing you back here next week. I hope you have a joyous week ahead. Bye bye.